Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Our Hearts at Home podcast, where we talk about trusting God in the midst of suffering. We're your hosts, Gary and Laura House, co-founders of the Our Hearts at Home Ministry to bereaved parents.
Every one of us encounters suffering. Each week on this show, we sit down with people who have a deep understanding of suffering because they've experienced it. We hope you'll leave here with new insights into how you can trust the Lord through the painful times of your life.
So thanks for joining us. We think you're going to be encouraged by what you hear today. Today we are delighted to welcome Yevgeniy Dovgalyuk, a professor at Liberty University and president of Liya Christian Ministries, to our podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
We're really looking forward to talking with you about a variety of things today, but can you start by just introducing yourself to our listeners?
Yes, thank you for having me on your podcast and for the invitation. I wanted to just say I was born in Latvia. I am a simple person. I was born into a musical family. My mom is the musical one. She played piano and sang. All the kids, we had four. I have three siblings, so four kids play instruments. And my father was, I later found out he's musical as well, but he was more of our manager. And so we were able to immigrate to the United States when I was 11 years old in 1991. And 1991 was actually the breakup of the Soviet Union. And so my first language is Russian because of the Soviet Union. And when we immigrated to the U.S., I continued to my violin studies, and I went all the way through my doctorate, and eventually got the job at Liberty as a violin professor. And throughout my time, I've always been teaching and playing professionally, and anywhere that I would be asked to play, sharing the gifts and talents that God has given me, including different churches and things like that. Also recordings. And so I have a wife who I met at George Mason in undergrad, and we were in a quartet together. So whenever you get into a string quartet, watch out. You might get married. So and she's wonderful. She's a violist, and she was all the way education, and I was all the way performance. And so after she graduated, she had her license and began to teach elementary strings, and she taught strings for, I say 12 years, she says 11, I count the part-time year because when we had our son, she went part-time. And so I have two kids. My son is now 10 and daughter is 7. And so my son plays cello. My daughter somewhat plays violin. But if you notice, I'm a violinist. My wife's a violist. Daughter has to play violin because my son plays cello. That's a string quartet right there.
That wasn't planned or anything, huh?
Oh, no, of course. But yeah, so that's just a little bit about me. I perform with, National Symphony at the Kennedy Center as a substitute. I'm a substitute with North Carolina Symphony. So that's where I play professionally. Sometimes I play other events. I'm also concertmaster at Lynchburg Symphony locally, and professor at Liberty, and father, and all of that. So lots of different hats.
Well, thank you. Sounds like a very interesting, exciting, and busy lifestyle for you and your family.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention, I'm also president of Liya Christian Ministry.
Right. Yeah, we want to hear more about that during our podcast here today. Several things I'd love to ask you about, but as I've learned a little bit about you, I'd love to hear a little bit about your sister, Liya. Many of our listeners are bereaved parents. They've lost children, but they have surviving children who have just lost a sibling. And what we've discovered in our ministry is that the loss of a sibling is quite profound and often overlooked. If you meet somebody in town runs into the sibling on the street, they never ask how the sibling's doing. They always say, "How are your parents doing?" And the siblings don't always want to talk to their parents about their own grief because they don't want to be more of a burden to the grief that they see their parents going through. So with that in mind, I was wondering if you could share a little bit of Liya's story and your own grief journey.
Yeah, Liya was the youngest, so I'm number three in line. So I have two older brothers. So is Timofey. He was piano, clarinet, kind of nothing at the moment, but he could if forced to play now. And then second is cellist. His name's Pavel, and he got his undergrad in cello performance and at Boston University, and is an amazing cellist. But is in music now, less of a cellist. But again, he can play. And then I'm number three, violin all the way. And then my sister was also a violinist, and she was the youngest of the family. And at one point, I remember my sister was very good at learning things. She was very quick, and my teacher, I think, was always impressed with her, of how quickly she could learn things. And I don't know if anybody realized that I had already played those things, and so I was helping her. Like when I hear a wrong note, I'd run up there and like, "Hey, Liya, watch out for that note," And so I realized later that all my life, I was actually teaching because I had a sister. And maybe a part of why I like to teach and I like to connect with younger people is because I had that through my sister. And so we had I'm the youngest now. And so we had this, I think, special connection between being the youngest, being violinists, and being the closest in age. And so she, when we moved to the United States, she complained of a soreness in her knee, and with some biopsies and things, it was found out she had bone marrow cancer. And she was 8 years old when we moved. And so she started through friends, and we didn't have insurance. We didn't have a way to pay for anything, but it was worked out with the hospital that she could go through a program that was basically covered. And so she went through the whole process and had a very long time with the chemotherapy. She lived in the hospital. We visited all the time. And she continued to play as she could. She got very skinny. She recovered, though. She beat the cancer. She had a replacement knee, so they had to replace her knee with a prosthesis. And she went through physical therapy, and she was going to have to be on medication, I think, for maybe the rest of her life, And so I remember giving her the meds too. She had little tubes and things like that. And so, but she got better and better. And one day she just started complaining about headaches, and it was some kind of an infection, but she didn't want to go to the hospital. I think she was remembering her previous times at the hospital. And so she locked herself in the room. And eventually my mom got her out, but that was the day that she, her organs all shut down, and she had to be rushed to the ER, and then ICU. She was in ICU for 2 weeks, and in the end her body failed. She was it was basically her heart failed because it was damaged. And so it was a very difficult time for our family and our church family and just everyone who knew her and us. And my mom, if you interview her, she would tell you the story about that the night before she passed away. My mom went in to talk to her, and she said that she is very brave, and she has fought very well, and if it's time for her to go, and if Jesus comes, she should take his hand and go. And so the machines basically just kind of evened out. She had a very peaceful night, And in the morning, we all gathered, and she went to be with the Lord, with our pastor there and our family.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was, in a way, it was very difficult. It still is difficult to remember, but at the same time, um, you know, letting her go ahead of time was good for our family to kind of process and know that she's okay.
How old was she when she went to heaven?
13. She turned 13 in the ICU.
Okay.
So
So it started
yeah,
when she was 8, and then
yeah,
so she was
yeah.
13. Okay.
Mm.
Well, as Gary was talking about with siblings, can you share a little bit with our listeners? She was 13. You were how old? How much of
15.
15. So can you share a little bit about your grief journey? Kind of how,
After that,
yeah.
yeah. Well, so we as you know, many years went by as at her being sick and her getting better and us caring for her. And so there were a lot of ups and downs, and this was a really low down. And when she was gone, you know, for a while it was difficult to accept, but at the same time, it was we accepted God's will for her life, and it wasn't for her to stay, and so I think personally that's how I think, and I think my family may say the same thing, that if out of our own will, out of the doctor's will, if they kept her here, what kind of life would she have? And I don't even know, but we just accepted God's will. And so as a 15-year-old, it was hard to process because I didn't want to lose my sister. I even told her, I was taking biology at the time, sophomore in high school. And she had a tube down her throat. So I had one-on-one times that I could visit her in the ICU. And with her tube down, she couldn't talk, but I could see she was awake with the eyes, So it outlined different organs, and I would update her with what they were doing. Your liver's here, your heart is here, everything. And so anyway, I don't. She might have found that in music. I don't know, but and so when I pointed to her heart, I said, the doctors say that sometimes it gets low, and you need to keep it pumping. And so I said, just whatever you do, just keep the heart pumping. And one day when the heart rate was dropping, we all kind of went in because we didn't know what was going to happen. And I took her hand and I said, keep your heart going, and it went up. So, so I have that special moment with her, but at the same time, accepting the will, God's will, and how he's worked in her life at that point. The stories that came out were really inspiring. And so partly why my parents wanted to honor her memory with the foundation was because of who she was. And so that's how Liya Christian Ministry was started. It was actually started as Liya Dovgalyuk Foundation. So,
well, Liya, it's Liya Christian Ministry is easier to pronounce, so
yeah.
the name. I want to read something from your website. We read that your mission is to, quote, provide support for music therapy programs for special needs families. Your goal is to connect with people all over the world through the power of music, and you seek to train and equip individuals to discover and to follow their God-given purpose for their lives. So a lot of really beautiful points there. So can you just give us an overview? Share with us what is the ministry all about?
Yeah. So we started, as I mentioned, out of a desire from my parents to honor my sister's memory. And there wasn't anything really specific except that they wanted to go back to the heritage, which is Ukraine. And so with some pastors there and with our local church, they started and it's called Liya Camp. And it was for orphan kids. They just wanted kids to have a place to go and experience, have food and experience, time um, away from their regular lives, and just have everything provided, and enjoy their time at this camp. And so that was the beginning of the mission. But in the mission, once that became self-sustaining, my mom especially was thinking, well, Liya was a musician. We're all musicians. Let's include music. And so we started to have Liya music camps in different countries, but primarily in Ukraine. And at one point, there were 100 kids would come to a 2-week live-in camp in Ukraine, and with 30 staff and us coming from the US. And it was a big deal, and we did that annually for many years, just helping provide support for these young kids. And and that was primarily focused on music, and us kind of coming together from different parts of the world, to grow, understanding of how to worship, what worship is, and things like that. And when the war began with Russia, it was really 2014 when Russia took over Crimea and started fighting in the east. It became a little bit less stable for other countries to join us. And so we decided to focus more locally and in the Rivne area, because we had a lot of partners there in Ukraine. And that's where, around that time, when we connected with Zoriana, and Zoriana was a doctor. She who's the doctor delivers babies.
An obstetrician.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And she shared with us that there's a need to do something, because there are a lot of kids who are born with special needs, and we didn't even know, and so we didn't know what we could do, how we could help. But she shared with us that there was a need for these families who have special needs kids. And if you ask a regular Ukrainian, like, oh, you walk down the street, they'll say, well, we have no special needs families, because they don't come out. They can't come out. There's no access. They can't, they're not really accepted in the society. And so, and then my brother at that time was president of Liya Christian Ministry, so Timofey. After my father passed away, in 2014, he was thinking, well, who's going to continue? And it was clear that he had to continue with Liya Christian Ministry. And so he connected the dots with this, and he said, okay, there's this need for a community, and there's this need for people to come together in a healthy setting, and have some Bible studies with. So they started Bible studies with these families of special needs kids, and we got a team together to watch the kids that were qualified, with the special needs, so that the mothers could, and especially mothers, because fathers generally leave, they would get together and have a Bible study, a little bit time away from their kids, but also just to connect socially and things like that. And so from that, it grew to my brother noticing a need for really having a passion, a need for healthy churches. And so he decided to look into starting SALT, which is now the result of SALT, because Liya, we were not going to be equipped to train pastors and everything that SALT does. And so, but it was all of us kind of working together to try to figure that out. So Liya Christian Ministry, we really do what we see God as leading us to do. Personally, what I know, once I became president, Timofey became president of SALT, and there needed to be someone else to be president of Liya, and I said, okay, I will do it. what I know is music. And so I continue to focus on music, and music can connect many things together, connect communities, connect special needs people. And, and we've had concerts where these kids, families, they come and they're giving a bell with a color, and you would hold up a color and they play with the orchestra, and it's just amazing. And so, yeah, so it's basically what we do. We just recently this year, a few weeks ago, we're in Poland. First time in Krakow, Poland. The idea was to have one of our Liya music camps, and it didn't turn out exactly as planned, but it was just an amazing experience. And since it was the first time, and that's why I say not exactly as planned.
Yeah, sure.
But but it was really amazing to connect with the local. It was a Ukrainian Polish congregation. Basically, they're refugees from Ukraine who walked or drove across the border in 2022. Was it 22 that the February, right? When their houses were starting to get bombed. And so they went, there were 2 million people, I think around 2 million that crossed into Poland. And so we connected with some of them. And so we started this camp in Poland this past summer. So anyway, that's kind of what we do.
Well, your website has a lot of information, and in the show notes, of course, we'll put all those details so people can check out the website and see how they might be able to be involved.
Well, that's quite a story. So you keep busy with the ministry, but as you mentioned, you're also a professor of violin at Liberty University as well. You obviously have a heart for helping others, and you have all these students that you teach, young adults who are impressionable and in school to be taught. How do you pass along your passion of helping others to these students? Do you try to give them a vision for how God can use their music to minister and change lives? Just how do you try to teach them and encourage them and disciple them and prepare them and equip them for going out and impacting other people's lives?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So Liberty and Liya Christian Ministry, we're very closely aligned with our mission of what we're trying to do and accomplish. Like you said, equipping and encouraging and teaching the next generation of people to just follow God's leading in their lives. And so there are two different ways that I teach. One is applied lessons, so like private lessons. And that's a unique setting because in a university environment, because it's one-on-one. And so that is a chance for me to really get to know a student personally. And I remember my first semester, I was driving back and forth, and I was talking to an associate dean, and I was saying, Liberty should have this, because I'm thinking highest levels, performance. We have to do all these things in order to improve. And he said, you're right. But let me remind you that we are here to train champions for Christ. And so all of that is great, but you should connect with them personally. You should pray with them. You should basically just be a mentor to them, not only on the violin, but also in their walk. And I was thinking, my first semester, I was thinking, I have never had a professor pray with me. That was kind of mind blowing to me, that I could just stop and pray with a student, in a lesson at a university. And that is what's special about Liberty, is that we are actually encouraged to care about the students and to connect with them and to pray with them and to help them. help them grow in many different areas of their life. And so the second way is through a classroom setting. So I have been asked and I've been blessed really to teach musicianship and music theory and sometimes string classes, strings related classes. And so that's a classroom full of students. And so I'm going to be teaching Theory 1 this coming semester. And there are maximum 40 students in the class. So I'll probably have close to that in the class. And so then I'm in front of the students and I, present the material and I talk to them. And sometimes I say, I'm going to digress for a minute because I feel like I need to share something with you, and it can be a personal thing or it can be something that comes to mind. And just, I always say, but I will relate it back to theory.
Yeah.
If it's a theory class. And so I think those students that are open-minded and open-hearted, and I always say my door is always open. Even if those that are struggling, they can come in and have a one-on-one time with me and we can talk about other things. But connecting with students is something that I love. And this past trip, we had multiple Liberty University students who went through my Theory 1 class, who were on our mission trip, and it was their first time out of the country and first mission trip ever.
Wow.
And they're just amazing musicians, amazing people, and so the easiest answer is I just share who I am, and I hope that I'm able to connect with them. And in the end, a grade is a grade, but that's not exactly why we're there.
Yeah. That's really neat. Something those students will never forget the rest of their lives. They could learn violin a lot of places, but they can't learn what you're showing them, and you're showing them the faithfulness of God, who God is, and the faithfulness in your life through things you've been through. All those experiences are things that all of those students will take with them forever. I know yesterday we spent some time, kind of got stuck on YouTube listening to you play the violin. You've played so many places. And so there's a lot of links on YouTube and we thoroughly enjoyed those. You'll have to let me know if there's like a master link place where I can send. Otherwise I just have to keep finding new ones on YouTube. But anyway, we want to make sure that we put a lot of links there in the show notes because I was personally blessed by listening to your music.
Thank you.
Well, we always end our podcast by asking our guests to share a scripture that's been important in their journeys. Is there a scripture, or a couple of scriptures that have been especially important to you, maybe as far back as the loss of your sister, Liya, and the grief that you went through there, or something, a scripture that sustained you throughout your musical and ministry career?
Yeah. So one of my favorite books is Proverbs, because they're short and they're to the point, and there's a lot of wisdom there, and understanding of what knowledge is and things like that. I'm thinking back, as you said, to the time when I was younger, and the scripture that really helped me at that time, and I would have to say it's Matthew 6:25 through 34. And if I could just read that real quick. So therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? That was 6:25. And then read the whole thing. It's amazing. But at the end, 6:33 is, seek ye first the king, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. And so just when I was younger and I read that, I was reminded that I don't need to be worried about the past. I just need to trust God, to seek Him and walk in His will, and everything else will be added. So
thank you so much for being with us today. This has been wonderful.
you're welcome.
So,
Yeah. Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
The Our Hearts Are Home ministry to bereaved parents is solely funded by generous supporters like you.
To partner with us to reach grieving parents with the hope found in Christ, visit ourheartsarehome.org.